The flow state is an optimal state of mind when you feel your best and you perform your best. When people say, go with the flow, that's a mindset. It's usually something that's passive and you're kind of putting yourself aside. Being in the flow state is the exact opposite. It's very active. It's when you're deeply engaged. You're not putting yourself aside, you're putting all of yourself into everything that you have right in front of you in that moment. My dad, who was always in sales, had the job that paid the bills, but he always brought the part of himself that he loved to his work. Always a storyteller. He was always of service, looking out for his clients. Being of service and telling those stories, that's how he always activated his flow state. Flow falls under the umbrella of positive psychology. Taking a look at what's working well, reverse engineering it, and creating more of that goodness in your life. The person who coined the term positive psychology is Martin Seligman, and he very specifically talked about being in your signature strengths. When flow is ignited, it's because there's a rush of peak performance hormones into our brain that create brainwaves that are conducive to the flow state. The neocortex amps up, dramatically increasing learning speed, and the prefrontal cortex temporarily shuts down. This explains why we lose sense of time and a sense of ourselves, which are key indicators of being in the flow state. And these are the neurobiological conditions that make creativity and outstanding performance readily available. We experience euphoria, motivation, peak performance, and happiness. The key indicators of being in flow are losing a sense of time and losing a sense of yourself. We lose a sense of time because we're so immersed in something, we just love what we're doing. When people are in flow, in a world where 95% of thoughts repeat, you have new thoughts. And instead of being in a negative feedback loop where your work drains you, your work becomes so rewarding that it refuels you and you get into a positive feedback loop. According to Adam Grant, organizational psychologist, he wrote an article in the New York Times and he gave a TED Talk on this very topic. In it, he talked about the mental health spectrum and how halfway between depression and flourishing, there's this midway point where you're fine, but you're not fine. You're functional, but you can't get motivated. You're just in this state of suspension. And the word for that is languishing. The antidote to go from languishing to flourishing is to activate your flow state. Flow is not fluff. It's essential. It's the gateway to not only just being in your best self, but to going beyond what you ever thought you were capable of. Flow state training is vital. It's like one-stop shopping. The very nature of being in flow means you are deeply engaged. I already talked about the mental health, right? So we have employee engagement, we have mental health. As a leader, I relied on being in flow to lead others. It's personal development, it's peak performance. So that's why I like to think of flow as like one-stop shopping for so many different issues that people are grappling with in today's workforce. It's something that everybody is already wired for. Bottom line, when you get into flow, you unlock your genius and you love what you do. People have asked me, why do you have live music at a keynote? Is it just for entertainment or does it really have a purpose? And we've all heard the saying, people will forget what you say, but they're going to remember how you made them feel. And that's the power of having live music in a keynote. What's interesting about the neuroscience of live music as opposed to recorded music, it activates our bodies, our emotions, and it brings people together. Our brain lights up in multiple places when we're listening to live music, in addition to activating the eyes and the ears. And when you have a group of people listening to live music at the same time, they feel their emotions much stronger. Their heartbeats and their breathing rates sync up. On some subliminal level, they actually feel connected with everybody around them because of the shared experience. Music is a universal language. It has this incredible way of unifying people from all walks of life. My husband and I went out to hear a concert. And we expected the two lead musicians to be having a great time and to be at the top of their talent. And even though we expected it, it was still incredibly riveting. And when you think about having personal bests over the course of decades, it has a compound effect. And everybody's wired for this. It's just a matter of knowing how to tap in and to find your unique way of getting into flow. When my husband and I were at that concert, something really interesting happened. They designed the 90-minute set in such a way that every single one of the backup musicians literally took the center stage. They were the lead. They let it rip. And it was fascinating to see somebody who's back in the team come forward, be at the top of their game, and then we knew the caliber of the work that they brought to the teamwork. When each person on a team knows how to activate their flow state, not only is it incredibly rewarding, but all talent becomes top talent. So I'm 15 years old in my room blasting the music. And no, it was not rock and roll. I'm listening to a violin concerto. And in my imagination, it's as if I was the soloist standing center stage, pouring the core of my soul into every note I played. This has been my single most vivid of all flow state memories. But why would I remember that? Because after all these years playing in orchestras, I've never been a soloist. I've been in the orchestra, but it still was like an incredible experience to be in an orchestra. And it was the environment where all of the music would just sweep me away, and I would spend hours of uninterrupted time in flow. So it was about 3-4 years ago, and I was on a podcast interview. And Tyler was at the end of the podcast, and he's summarizing, and he's like, "Okay, Diane, so clearly you're not 15 in your room, blasting the music. After 28 years, you're done teaching violin. You don't even play in an orchestra anymore, but you do give keynotes, and now you're playing, music with this orchestral backing tracks. From where I sit, it looks like you've become the soloist." And I never saw it. I never connected it. That's when I realized that when we have, whatever you want to call them, their flow state visions or ideas or insights or daydreams or pipe dreams, whatever, that these are not ideas for you to shut down, brush under the rug, and discredit, because they exist for you to see your true genius and your heart's most burning desires.